Hey guys, I'm Sarah Doody, a user experience designer and entrepreneur. These episodes are filled with answers and insights to your questions about design, technology, and business. You can also learn more about user experience by getting my weekly user experience newsletter at theuxnotebook.com. In the meantime, let's answer another one of your questions. So Renee from Georgia has asked, how can you help your client help you? How can you get them to give you actionable feedback rather than vague opinion? I personally love this question because it's a massive pain point for me as well. Of course, I do a lot of teaching and speaking and things, but I also am out there practicing UX with real clients in the real world. And I cannot tell you the number of times I've been in a design review with a client showing them wireframes or something like that, and the feedback, it's kind of crickets, or they say, we're not really feeling this, or meh, they use these sound effects, they're just really vague with their feedback, and it leaves me in this detective mode where I have to figure out, okay, why don't they like this? So here are some tips to help you in your meetings with clients to draw out the best feedback from them so you can do your job as effectively as possible. First tip would be, in any project, you want to have a really solid kickoff meeting. And in that kickoff meeting, you want to set very clear expectations for the client's role in making the project a success. So their role is to be present at design reviews, preferably in person, I would say, if not on video for the first few, because you want to capture their feedback in person so you can gauge their gut reactions, their body language, things like that. That's going to tell you a lot, and it's just going to establish really important rapport for going forward. Further down the line, you can have those meetings remotely. It's completely acceptable. But if possible, I do them in person because it's just going to be able to set a really solid foundation. So also in that kickoff meeting, you'd want to let them know kind of the expectation of what tools you'll be using to gather feedback. They just email you? Will you use Google Docs? Will you use a spreadsheet? Will you use something like InVision, some tool to let you collect feedback? That's another important thing because it lets them know exactly what they're responsible for. You also want to set some type of deadline. So is it 24 hours? Is it 2 days? Whatever that is, you want to let them know. But let's jump ahead to an actual review meeting. So let's say you're with a client presenting some wireframes. The first thing I always do is I remind the client of what stage in the process we are at. So in your kickoff, you would have told them, your various stages, whatever those are, and then I always like to remind them. So, okay, here we are. We are on the third round of wireframes for this product or this feature, just to let them know where we are. It's also helpful to do this so that if new people trickle into the process down the road, or someone just pops in, the marketing person pops in or the CTO pops in, they have that context of what's been done prior to that exact day that you're having the meeting on. So secondly, I always set the context. I like to tell a little bit of a story about what's happening, how someone has arrived at this product, if it's the homepage, if it's a certain feature, what other actions they may have taken that got them to this particular feature. But I like to set some context, tell a story, and set some context so that people understand what is happening for the user and kind of put themselves in the user's shoes. If you have done personas or things like that, this would be a great time to interject those as well. So you could say, okay, imagine we are, Jackie, and Jackie has just gone through the sign-up flow. Now she's at the dashboard, and since she hasn't done anything yet, her dashboard is pretty empty. So today we're going to look at the kind of new user state of what that dashboard or first screen might be. So through that little example, you can see how I've set up this kind of scenario and context so that people aren't saying, well, why is the dashboard blank? And all these questions. So that's just one technique. If your clients continue to give you feedback that is vague, such as don't like it, not feeling it, not my thing. I actually had someone once tell me that they showed their children at dinner the night before and the kids didn't like it. So not really helpful. Also, the kids were not even close to the intended user. But when you receive that really vague feedback, that is your opportunity to go into researcher mode and say to people, why? What about that don't you like? How is that in not achieving, business goal X? Go back to some of the research you did. Go back to your original user flows you did and try and identify like the underlying reason why they may not like it. It's also a chance for you to kind of diagnose, I guess, their aptitude to be able to understand, whatever phase you're at. So I recently had this happen where no matter what we did in wireframes, they didn't seem to really be getting it. And ultimately, we realized that this particular client just really had a hard time going and wrapping their head around a wireframe. So a couple of solutions to that was, let me go back. And the reason was they kept giving feedback like, we don't understand why things are black and white. Why is that a different color gray? Or nitpicking copy and not understanding that the copy or the text on the wireframe was placeholder, and they were just wasting their energy and their time on these things that didn't matter because it was an early wireframe. So this is your chance to really diagnose their aptitude to understand a wireframe. And if you find that they have a lot of trouble and can't get over that hump of wireframe versus designed screen, then what I would do is say, okay, seems like you're having a little bit of trouble. That's fine. We understand you don't look at these things every day. So give them an example and say, here's a wireframe from a project we previously did, and here is the design. Here's what actually got launched, and show them that before and after in that translation so that they understand the wireframe and the evolution of it, let's say. So if you continue to find that your client is giving you this vague feedback, go back through this list I just gave you and think to yourself, did we have a strong kickoff meeting? Did I outline the process? Did I tell them how to give me feedback? Did I give them a deadline for feedback? What do I think their ability to understand a wireframe is? Have I done everything humanly possible to educate them about this? And then if you still have problems, it's tricky. It really depends on the timeline and budget. You could hop into design. You could try and see if there's another stakeholder within that company that could come in and kind of help out, maybe someone more visual or a product designer or something. But hopefully that gives you a couple of tips to go try and dig out better feedback from your clients so that you're not spending your time playing detective trying to decipher their vague feedback. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for your question, Renee. And if you're listening and you have a question, you can head over to Twitter and just ask me there. My name on Twitter is at Sarah Doody, Doody, and use the hashtag #AskSarah, and then we'll look for those and try and answer your question in an upcoming episode. In the meantime, the UX tip for today would be to always set the context. No matter what you're doing, always set the context. Always remember that context, because that context is going to help you be a better designer. It's going to help your team all be better designers, because you're going to focus on not just the feature, but the problem and the people and all that other stuff, not just the solution. But that context is also going to be critical to helping your client and stakeholders understand why you're doing a certain feature, why you're looking at a certain screen, etc. And hopefully that context will help them give you better design feedback. So that's all today, and we'll talk to you in another episode soon.